Everyone may see you as dependable, while missing how much energy it takes to keep appearing steady. Sometimes, after carrying everyone else emotionally, even an ordinary walk home can feel heavier than anyone realizes. Over time, you may sound reassuring during the call, then collapse quietly once nobody needs anything more from you. Sometimes, being the strong one often means holding everything together while nobody notices your own hands beginning to shake. Sometimes exhaustion only becomes visible in the few seconds before another person asks you to be available. Sometimes, the version others admire may hide a private version that feels tired, lonely, and close to breaking. Sometimes, you care for everyone so automatically that your own basic needs can disappear from the routine entirely. Sometimes, you may answer everyone thoughtfully while leaving your own feelings unfinished, unsent, and waiting for attention. Over time, when conflict appears, you become the calm center, even while tension quietly builds inside your body. Over time, saying yes again can feel easier than explaining that your capacity was already full before they asked. Sometimes, families often rely on the person who stays composed. But composure does not mean that person feels safe. By the time you are alone, your mind may still be carrying every problem entrusted to you. Sometimes, being praised for strength can feel comforting and painful when it becomes permission for others to overlook you. People may joke that you can handle anything, never realizing how trapped that expectation can make you feel. You keep showing up through discomfort because someone else needs you, even when your own body asks for rest. After helping someone survive their worst moment, you may sit alone with emotions that nobody witnessed. Over time, your rest is often the first thing sacrificed whenever another person's urgency enters your carefully planned day. Sometimes, even at night, your mind may remain connected to everyone else's pain, instead of returning gently to yourself. When every door belongs to someone else, your own needs can remain closed for so long they feel unfamiliar. Protecting others can become your identity, even when each impact quietly passes through the shield and into you. You may comfort someone sincerely while hiding physical signs that your own nervous system is overwhelmed too. Sometimes, when people assume you never need help, your silence can accidentally confirm a story that is not true. Refusing assistance may feel like independence, but sometimes it is fear of becoming inconvenient to someone else. Sometimes, many strong adults learned early that being useful was safer than expressing needs, confusion, or emotional pain. Sometimes, praise for staying calm can teach you to hide distress before you even understand what you are feeling. You become skilled at restoring order around others, while your own emotional disorder remains postponed and unseen. Sometimes, another emergency can easily replace your meal, your break, or the first quiet moment you had all day. You keep promising yourself rest later, but later keeps moving whenever somebody else asks for more. Over time, saying you are fine may protect the moment, while the truth continues pulsing underneath your practiced expression. Sometimes, when everyone else's needs carry more weight, your own needs eventually begin to feel undeserving or excessive. Sometimes, constant responsibility can drain concentration until even simple work requires more effort than anyone around you notices. Sometimes, sleep cannot fully restore a body that spends every waking hour braced for someone else's next crisis. Sometimes, unexpected exhaustion is not always laziness. Sometimes it reflects how long you have functioned beyond your limits. Sometimes, when your inner capacity is depleted, even small choices can feel strangely complicated, frustrating, and overwhelming. Over time, personal dreams often get postponed because another request appears more urgent, more visible, or easier to justify. Sometimes, you can become so fluent in other people's needs that your own desires start sounding like a foreign language. Emotional distance may appear even in company, because being present physically is not the same as feeling connected. Receiving care can feel uncomfortable when you learned that love was something you earned by being useful. Sometimes, when someone asks what you need, the answer may disappear because you have practiced ignoring it for years. Roles like helper, fixer, and listener can become so dominant that your identity underneath them feels blurred. Sometimes, trying to hold everything for everyone eventually means something important, often your own well-being, gets dropped over time. Your inner signals may grow quieter when they are repeatedly dismissed, but quiet does not mean they are gone. Loved ones may interpret your silence as distance, never realizing it comes from exhaustion rather than lack of care. Unprocessed pressure can escape through irritation, making harmless questions feel heavier than they actually are in everyday life. Exhaustion can make joy feel distant, even when you genuinely want to celebrate someone you care about. Sometimes, canceling plans may protect your energy, but guilt often arrives when you believe strength means constant availability. Sometimes, too many demands can blur together until your mind experiences every request as another wave of pressure. Sometimes, when you always appear capable, people may stop asking how you are because they assume the answer. Sometimes support was offered, but fear, habit, or pride trained you to decline before considering your needs. Sometimes, the turning point often begins when you finally notice the door you have kept closed inside yourself. Sometimes, opening that door can feel frightening because admitting need challenges the identity that kept you functioning. Over time, behind the strong exterior, there are ordinary needs for rest, nourishment, creativity, connection, and emotional safety. Over time, putting the burden down can feel unfamiliar, but unfamiliar does not mean wrong, weak, or irresponsible. Over time, real strength includes recognizing when survival habits are no longer supporting the life you want to build. Sometimes, without conscious change, the burden returns every time your automatic yes ignores your actual emotional capacity. Over time, boundaries remain invisible when they are never expressed, leaving others unaware that they have crossed them. Over time, resentment often grows where generosity continues without consent, rest, recognition, or room for honest limits. In everyday life, emotional numbness may look like calm, but it can also signal that your system has stopped responding freely. Small frustrations become louder when deeper exhaustion has been pushed aside for too many days in everyday life. Even the strongest structure develops cracks when one person is expected to support everything without support. Over time, people can continue comfortably while missing your limit, especially when you have trained yourself to hide it. Sometimes, explaining exhaustion can feel risky when you fear being judged as weak, difficult, selfish, or ungrateful. Over time, when every role has a reflection, it becomes easier to forget the person performing them all. Over time, looking beyond the roles means asking what you feel, need, value, fear, and genuinely want now. Over time, acknowledging anger can loosen resentment without requiring blame, cruelty, confrontation, or impulsive decisions, even when nobody notices you. Care becomes sustainable only when you include yourself among the people whose well-being deserves attention. In everyday life, your body's exhaustion is information, not evidence that you have failed at being capable or strong. Over time, asking for support can feel vulnerable, but it gives trusted people a real opportunity to show up. Sometimes, honesty often brings relief, because being witnessed is different from being fixed, advised, or rescued in everyday life. Accepting practical help teaches your nervous system that sharing responsibility does not automatically make you a burden. Sometimes, a pause before answering creates space between another person's request and your automatic habit of saying yes. Sometimes, a respectful no protects the energy required for the commitments, relationships, and responsibilities you truly value. Over time, rest may initially trigger guilt, especially when productivity and usefulness have shaped your sense of worth. Over time, writing your needs first can help you remember that your inner life deserves space before external demands. Sometimes, strength can include asking, receiving, pausing, crying, changing your mind, and admitting that something feels difficult. Over time, anger can move through the body safely when it is acknowledged, rather than buried or directed carelessly. Sometimes, tears do not cancel strength. They can release pressure that composure has been holding for too long. Sometimes, sharing responsibilities allows others to contribute, learn, and become dependable instead of relying endlessly on you. Over time, clear boundaries teach people how to care for you without requiring them to guess what hurts. Over time, planned quiet helps your mind return to itself instead of remaining available to everyone at every moment. Sometimes, basic nourishment is not a reward for finishing everything. It is part of what keeps you functioning. Sometimes, professional support can offer a safe place to explore patterns that feel too heavy to untangle alone. Sometimes, you can remain compassionate without absorbing every problem, solving every conflict, or carrying every emotional consequence. Over time, receiving comfort becomes easier when you stop believing that vulnerability makes you less worthy of respect. Over time, your inner door can stay open even when you choose not to enter every other person's emergency. Sometimes, shared burdens feel lighter because support transforms strength from isolation into connection, trust, and cooperation in everyday life. A healthy support system does not admire your collapse. It helps before your strength becomes exhaustion. Over time, opening space for yourself allows light, breath, and perspective to return where pressure once accumulated in everyday life. You do not have to answer every call immediately to remain loving, loyal, dependable, or kind. Over time, true strength is not carrying everything alone. It is knowing what to hold, share, release, and protect. Sometimes,